This is something I have truly never heard anyone talk about when it comes to avoidance. That is that avoidance will test you. This is not testing in like a manipulative sense. They are mostly like unconscious of the fact that they're doing this. It is more so an emotional defense mechanism. They are trying to suss you out to see if you are a safe person. Like, is it safe to be close to you? Will you overwhelm me, betray me, trap me? Because we know avoidants have a very hard time with direct conflict or even direct communication. A lot of times they will use little tests to see how you actually are. They fear losing themselves in relationships. They are so hyper self-reliant that they feel like if they get too close to someone or too dependent on someone, or if someone is too dependent on them, that they are going to lose that core part of themselves that is so important to them. They tend to expect others to become demanding, controlling, or disappointing like their caregivers may have been. So what they do is they subconsciously create like mini storms to see how you react to them. Will you chase? Will you get mad? Will you respect their space? Will you shame them? Here are some ways that they may test you. The first one is suddenly pulling away. What they are looking for is, will you panic and chase me? Or will you stay grounded? I also want to add that there's more than one thing that's usually going on here. When an avoidant pulls away suddenly, it's typically because they are emotional distancing. They are trying to calm down their nervous system because they are feeling some type of way that's making them feel afraid, overwhelmed, suffocated. And so to get a little space, they can calm down their nervous system and think more clearly. But what can also be going on at the same time is that they are trying to see how you're going to react to them pulling away. Maybe you guys always spent weekends together and then one random weekend they just kind of pull away and do their own thing. They're looking to see if you start blowing up their phone, calling them, trying to figure out where they're at, blah, blah, blah. That's going to kind of confirm for them that you are as dependent as they might think you are. The next one is they might say something dismissive or kind of hint at distance or something to see how you'll respond. A good example of this is one time my ex said, hey, you know that I'm in my band and everything. Well, we might go on tour at some point and then I would be away from you for a few weeks. How would you feel about that? And I did not pass the test. I was like, oh my God, of course I want you to go on tour and have fun, but it would be really hard to be away from you for that long. Another time he said he might be getting a job that was a couple hours away from where we live and that he would have to be living out there while he was doing the job. And I got kind of upset because I was like, what do you mean? We're in a relationship and how am I supposed to see you? And he's like, well, maybe you can come up on the weekends or something. And I was just like, what? I think in these situations, there were two things going on. I think he was starting to feel suffocated. He was starting to feel like I was too dependent on him. And he also wanted to see if I would even allow him that space and distance. And the problem is a lot of anxious people will fail the tests. Not only because we are just somewhat anxious, we need a different type of love, but also when you are with an avoidant person, you cling even harder because you can sense that they are trying to get away from you. Another test might be revealing something vulnerable and then retreating. They want to see if you're going to smother them with sympathy or if you are going to allow them to retreat. The next is delaying responses. And if you've been with an avoidant, you know that this happens a lot. They will delay texting you back. And I think a huge part of this is that they want to see if you're going to spiral if they're not constantly available. And I can't lie, I have done this before with an anxious person. At the time, I did not consciously realize that I was testing him. What would kind of happen in my brain is I would see that his text was coming in and I had already started to feel that he was too dependent. He was kind of overwhelming me a bit. And I would see his text come in and it would just flood my nervous system with a feeling of overwhelm. And I would just not really want to text back right then. I knew that I would text back, but I just didn't want to do it at that point. And so I would just kind of delay and delay and delay not for like a super long time, but maybe just for a number of hours during that day. And he would typically get like reactive. And then it would kind of confirm for me that like this is a person that is like very reliant upon me. He would get like physical symptoms of like feeling sick or something, and I would be like, oh my god, like this is someone that like can't see, that seems to spiral when I am inconsistent. I want to add though that I know that this is not the correct way to do things. Like this can be hurtful to the other person, and if someone has anxious attachment, like it is really harmful to their nervous system. It probably is making them sick because they do become dependent, and then it drives them crazy. I know the feeling because I've been in that boat. The next one is making you jealous or withholding affection. They might say something like, oh, the barista at Starbucks was like hitting on me today, or they might not get intimate with you for a whole week or something. They want to take something away from you and see how you respond when things aren't always going your way, or when something could be deemed as like somewhat upsetting. They basically want to see if you're going to crash out. And the last one is that I can think of at least, is that they might give you an ultimatum. And a lot of times they won't even tell you what it is. So they will just kind of like mention or hint things. So maybe like they really want you to get a job. They feel like you not having a job is like lazy, or that you're just not as independent as they are. So they might hint throughout the relationship that they want you to get a job. And at a certain point, if they feel like you're just not doing it, they might like put a mental ultimatum in their head, like, okay, if they don't do this in 3 months, I'm gonna break up with them. And so they might hint it one more time, like, hey, I really need you to get a job or whatever. And then they'll have that 3 months ticking in their head. And then at the end of the 3 months, if you still don't have a job, even though you didn't know about the 3 months, they will leave the relationship. So they were like mentally testing you. They were basically trying to see, like, does this person have any respect for themselves? Like, do they have enough respect for themselves to like go get that job or whatever? What's harmful about that though is that a lot of times, because avoidants are so hyper self-reliant, they feel like the way that they live is the way that everybody should live, and that everybody should be just as self-reliant as they are. And that's not necessarily everybody's course. Like, just because you are not the same way as the avoidant person, it doesn't mean there's something wrong with you. Yeah, let me know if any of these ever happen in your relationship. I, of course, want to say, like, this isn't fair to do to people. I think the only time that testing is useful is if like you are out in the dating pool and you are trying to get to know people and you really want to see the character of someone. Sometimes putting a small boundary in place, or like not letting someone get what they want, can really show you how someone is. Like, for instance, if you set up a date with them and then like maybe, you know, a day before, a couple days before, you say, oh my god, something came up, can we reschedule? See how that person responds to that. But a lot of times inside of an anxious avoidant dynamic, it can be really harmful to the more anxious person or the avoidance partner.